What is up, everyone? It is Matt and Geoff back for another real review, and that's right. You get two of those special little ones that we only do when I haven't seen a movie and Geoff has. And last week, if you haven't already seen it, the Different Man review, go check that out. Last time we were able to finally do one under 15 minutes. So let's see if we can do that again, because that has been a struggle for us on these.
All right, yeah, hold on one second. I got all my notes for this movie though, so I don't know if it's gonna. That's not joking. This isn't even my notepad. Hello. Yes, my name is Geoff. You can see it there. There. That's the logo for the movie over there. It's called We Live in Time. Directed by John Crowley. John Crowley, if you're familiar with him, he made the wonderful film back in 2015 starring Saoirse Ronan called Brooklyn, about the Irish girl who moves to Brooklyn. And will she fall in love with the New York boy, Emery Cohen, or will she fall in love with the Irish boy, Donald Gleason? The answer may surprise you. It's a very good movie. She got a Best Actress nomination. It was nominated for Best Picture. I think it was probably nominated for Best Adapted Screenplay. I think that was it. I think it was only nominated for those 3 Oscars. I'm gonna just assume that I'm right, because I'm pretty smart that way. You can fact check me if you want. Then he went and he made. Everyone was like, "Oh man, he's gonna make an adaptation of this wonderful, unbelievable, dense, dramatic, epic book, The Goldfinch." It's a Pulitzer Prize-winning book from this filmmaker that made a Best Picture nominee with cinematography from the legitimary Roger Deakins, and it
was bad.
It feels like a notorious misfire the way that it like completely falls apart somehow. It's kind of amazing that it looks amazing, by the way, but that's because it's shot by Roger Deakins.
Right.
So yeah. After that, I mean, John Crowley took a few years off, and when I say a few years, I mean to say the world shut down, and then afterwards he made this movie, We Live in Time. We Live in Time, an original film written by Nick Payne, and it stars Andrew Garfield and Florence Pugh. I don't know if you've heard of them before. They're kind of famous, and they're both British, and they're both just so charming. They just make whatever they're doing just like feel
10 times better.
Yeah, basically. And this movie is, it at its core, it's a pretty standard like British weepy romantic drama. But that's not a bad thing, right? There's a place where those movies like work. There's a reason why they get made. And this is just a really solidly made film with 2 ridiculously charming and hot lead stars that are just like, let's see them be super in love with each other and go through some tragic life circumstances. We have Andrew Garfield, who happens to be just on the other side of, he's about to get divorced, and when he's having like a sort of a breakdown a bit on finally signing the papers for it from the hotel room, and all the pens are out of ink. So he goes to the store in just a bathrobe and shoes to go get the new pens. And on his way back, he gets hit by a car driven by Florence Pugh. That's their meet cute. And he works for some company, and he works for some company. I think it's like a cereal or like a fiber company or something like that. And she is a chef. She's this wonderful, amazing chef, the kind that's like who would get a Michelin star. Like she's about to open her own restaurant, and it's the story of these 2 people that just immediately click, and they have this wonderful chemistry with each other. And their biggest hurdle is in life for a long period is he wants to have kids and she's not sure. And it seems like that's how is that gonna, how does that translate into more drama? Well, she's also a woman who turns out through the course of their relationship gets ovarian cancer, and she goes through the process of surgery and chemo, and she gets better. And I'm able to like kind of go through the story of it because the whole thing is it's nonlinear for the most part. This film is pretty nonlinear up until like the last part of the last act, I'd say. So it feels like it's hard to another movie where it's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna say what's happening, and it's not so much about the plot as it is about the moments, because sooner or later they do have a child, because and then she ends up she ends up getting cancer again, and it could be worse this time if she doesn't treat it properly. And it's this story of, is she going to then get the treatment, or does she want to live her life that she has left without being sickly for the whole period of time? And it's very curiously constructed in the way that it has this nonlinear format. They are very clever, I think, in a way, in the way that they utilize it. A lot of nonlinear formats, you could kind of tell where timelines go because they have things. Oh, they might be shot a little differently. The color might be a little off. At some point you can tell where something is based on she has cancer. So at some point her hair is going to look different, wouldn't it? Right.
Right.
But there are chunks where she does have cancer early on, or when she's first learning about it, and she has the exact same hair as she has during times where she's just in this happy relationship with Garfield. And what makes this interesting to me is how there are times where they confront each other positively, negatively, and they have these conversations, and you realize, because they're not like, there's no, oh, based on it, if it's earlier it's a different color, oh, it's brighter and it gets darker, the more sick she might get. Everything looks exactly the same, and they all act exactly the same. They're the same to each other. They're the same people that they fell in love with from the beginning to each other throughout this. And they'll have these conversations, and you don't realize until near the end of the conversation, are they talking about her right now, like them having to do stuff in response to the fact that she's sick? Or is it a completely innocuous conversation they're having, or something that's just like a normal thing about their relationship? You don't realize what's going on until later on. You have to continue to use context clues. And I find that interesting because a big thing about this movie is, if she doesn't want to get treatment again, she doesn't want to be sickly, she'd rather have 6 amazing months left rather than 12 shitty months. And it shows that regardless of what the topic is, like, you don't know how much time you're going to have left with anyone. And when you do, what are you going to do with that time? And how what you end up finding important you might end up approaching that the same exact way you do with the most unimportant, innocuous things. And it's kind of complex. I don't know if it totally lands all of that all the time, but it definitely makes it stand out more than just like a basic British weepy melodrama. It's also very, very funny. It is very funny in a very organic kind of way. These people that, she's sick, it's very dramatic what's going on, but they can't help but you're not going to be miserable 100% of the time. All right. I mean, like, Robin Williams made a whole movie about how laughter is the best medicine. Like, not saying that plays a role in here at all, but more like, people don't always approach stuff from the perspective of, we need to be the most serious we possibly are about the subject. They're two people that love each other. They have their own form of communication. There's going to be sarcastic stuff. There's going to be some funny moments. One of the best scenes in the movie is showing how she has to give birth, because they're trying to give birth, and everything that can go wrong to bring her to give birth in a hospital does go wrong. The resolution of it is hysterical, and then the next scenes might make you want to cry. It's very. I'm not as emotional a person, I think, when it comes to these sort of titles as some other people. So I didn't cry. I could feel myself like, like in my chest, like, ooh, I could feel the emotion that it wants me to feel. I don't cry at movies. That's just one of my things. Um, but I think this is pretty effective. I wish that it committed more to the playful, interesting work it was doing with its story structure by using the nonlinear story to allow us to feel to experience the same kind of communications and conversations and how they can apply both to the worst that worst thing you're going through with the most wonderful thing, and how they might be one and the same because they're all part of you and your story in your life. And I wish that it committed more to that in the last third, where it mostly just focuses on their present circumstance. um but I think that it still has a lot of wonderful moments, and it has two dynamo leads that are just being, wonderful actors, just showing that they both are, surprising no one, still good actors. So, yeah, I like the movie. I don't necessarily love it, but I do enjoy it quite a bit, and I'd see it again, at a later date.
That's one of those times you just kept going and going and going and going. So you covered a lot of. I didn't really
I
have
know,
to.
I do keep going.
So if you just said you didn't love it, but you liked it enough, so if you had to rate it, what would you rate this film?
In a world where all art is subjective, so ratings are meaningless, I give this a 3.5 out of 5. No, I do. I like it quite a bit. You see it right there on the poster there. We see here, every minute counts. It's trying to show that no matter what you're doing, everything you're doing really does matter, because it brings you to who you are and who you're gonna be, and who you are to your loved ones, and what they are, and who they are to you as well. Of course, there are, of course, a few different things that they do that feel like, story contrivances. um oh, every minute counts. They're trying to make the most. They have to be able to utilize their time as best they can. She's also a Michelin star level chef, and they have stuff that has to be precise. If you've ever seen an episode of Hell's Kitchen, you know this. So it's not saying that there's like that sort of stress in the movie, but same stuff. In a chef's, if you watch The Bear, they have that clock up on the wall because every second counts. So yeah, I enjoy it. I recommend it. A24. I know that you don't need to worship at the altar of a brand. It's very capitalism forward, but they know what they're doing.
And they know what
A24.
they're doing, and they're pretty consistent, honestly.
Yeah, they're pretty consistent.
All right, folks. Well, if you haven't already, check out our Jeff's review from last week of A Different Man,
That's
which that
me.
which that was a fun one. Yeah, I'm plugging it again. And if you haven't already, also checked out the special channel announcement from last week. Go do that as well. That was really fun, and you got something to look forward to this upcoming Friday. Thanks to it. But also be sure to check out our sister channel, Watt Gaming, which is where all of our Twitch streams go to live after the fact, and all the shorts Taylor makes from all of our different gaming content. So be sure to check that out. Taylor does a fantastic job. And the Twitch is just simply twitch.tv/WattReal, as spelled in that top corner up there. So go check out the Twitch as well. It is Real-O-ween, as Taylor calls it. So we are in the spooky season. So with that, folks, thank you, Geoff, once again for joining in and giving us your thoughts on this. Remember to follow that man right there on Twitter, because we refuse to call it the other name. And yeah, so signing off, I'm Matt, that's Geoff, and this was another Real Review. We'll see you next time.